second half of the NFL season is here, and those young QBs are putting on a show. But who's the best team? This is when we separate the pretenders from the contenders. And you can follow that story every Sunday with the NFL on CBS.
Super Wildcard Weekend predictions and thoughts. Here we go. Let's start in the AFC wildcard game. We'll go Browns at the Steelers. Now, the Steelers obviously didn't put up much of a fight, starting Mason Rudolph and working in Hobbs as quarterback for that game in Week 17. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think the biggest factor in this game, I know people are saying the Steelers are playing poorly right now. They're not peaking at the right time. The idea is to crescendo right into the playoffs and go right into the Super Bowl and win. But that's not how it's going to work for the Steelers. But they're going to take care of the Browns. Here's the issue with the Browns. They're missing their coach and play caller, Stefanski. That's not good. Their left guard, Bitonio, is going to be out, as well as another receiver, I believe. Their best news they've received so far is that nobody else is on the COVID reserve list as of Tuesday, the week of the game. Their facility is still going to be closed Wednesday, the week of the game. They're doing virtual walkthroughs. I just don't see it happening. The Steelers -6. I'm taking the Steelers all the way. They find playoff form and win. In this next matchup, the Indianapolis Colts are traveling to Buffalo, who's hosting a playoff game. They also are going to have fans in attendance, so look out, Bills Mafia. This should be a fun one. And Buffalo's playing well. Josh Allen, after a rough outing in the playoffs last year, losing to the Texans just narrowly, had a couple turnovers in that game. Didn't play his best. He thought he's learned quite a bit from that. And this team has really built around him with Stephon Diggs. That's going to be a fun matchup between him and Xavier Rhodes from the Colts. So tune into that. Also with the Colts, their biggest weapon has been their rookie running back, second rounder, Jonathan Taylor, who's rushed for over 1,100 yards as a rookie and over 6 yards a carry. So this kid is a force to be reckoned with. I think the Bills defense has improved throughout the season, but that's going to be a focal point for them. And most importantly, which quarterback takes care of the football more efficiently, moves his team down the field, all those things. You know, Phillip Rivers is known to be a little erratic with his accuracy and touchdown to interception ratio, and Josh Allen and the Bills are just on fire right now. I don't think anybody slows them up. I'm going to take the Bills, and I do believe they'll cover by a touchdown. The Baltimore Ravens are traveling to Tennessee to take on the AFC South champion Tennessee Titans. This one is interesting because the Titans have essentially had the Ravens' number, and Lamar Jackson in particular. They've found a way to shrink the field and keep him in the pocket, and that's the only way you're going to beat this kid is force him to beat you from the pocket, driving the ball down the field, 10, 12, 13, 14-yard play drives, and converting multiple third downs and making him beat you with his arm, which is a tall task because they have an incredible rushing attack as well. So that's something you have to think about. Well, with Lamar Jackson, as you've watched their season unfold, some things have changed. They were big into 13 personnel, which is, one back, 3 tight ends, and only 1 receiver. Now they're doing a lot more 11 personnel, which is 1 back, 1 tight end, and then 3 speedy receivers. So be alert for those jet sweeps. Those have really enhanced and bolstered their running game. And then for Lamar Jackson in general, when he, evades one tackler in the backfield, look out because all bets are out the window and this kid can really beat you. But what Tennessee has and what I believe they will employ is this ability to keep games on schedule, and they do that with their running game. They establish Derrick Henry as a powerful back. They let him take over these games, and he just gets stronger and stronger as the game goes on. What else do we have to say? He's the rushing champ the last 2 years. He just rushed for 2,000 yards. So that's where everything starts and ends with them. Then they get into their play action game. Then Ryan Tannehill looks like one of the best quarterbacks over the past 15, 16 games that we've seen. And he matches up in the top 10 in all major statistical categories for quarterbacks. So I see the Titans, as hard as it is to beat a team 3 times essentially in a calendar year, I see the Titans pulling it off. We're jumping over to the NFC, and let's talk the Los Angeles Rams traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks for their 3rd matchup this season. When we look at the Seahawks, the home team favored by 4.5. Russell Wilson, obviously most important on their team, their quarterback, who for the majority of the season was everyone's MVP pick. He's fallen off slightly, and Aaron Rodgers just had this spectacular year and probably edged him out. But Russell Wilson's been a little bit under the radar as of late, and most importantly for the Seahawks, their defense has finally come back. I mean, these guys were allowing 30-point games by opposing teams regularly early in the season. With the addition of Dunlap and Jamal Adams, once they finally got comfortable in this system, they have now been just a nightmare for offenses and have put the clamps down on other teams trying to score. So that's their biggest asset right now. And then leading into this game, Jared Goff's thumb is obviously a huge issue. So that to me tells me there's too much going on for the Rams. They barely backed into the playoffs, beating the Seahawks last week. I think they're up for the challenge. Unfortunately, I think Walford's going to have to come in at some point. I don't know if Jared Goff's going to make it through this entire game. So this 4.5-point spread, things could get ugly if the Seahawks really take off here. And that's what I'm predicting. I think the Seahawks win big at home. This next matchup, we'll talk about the Chicago Bears traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. How about Mitch Trubisky? He's really come on these last few weeks, and maybe him getting benched early in the season taught the Bears more about their coaching staff than it did Mitch Trubisky, because they finally changed play callers, and that seems to work better than changing up quarterbacks. So credit to Mitch Trubisky for, putting things together. Now, I just don't know if they'll have enough. Their defense is going to have to really put the clamps on Drew Brees, and what they have working in their favor, Chicago that is, Alvin Kamara is finally coming off the COVID reserve list. He'll be ready for the game, but this is also his first day back. Everything else is going to have to be done virtually. So I guess if you're the Bears, that's the best thing you got going for you. And maybe that Drew Brees isn't 100% healthy, and you hope those guys go out and lay an egg. Now, the Saints are -10, which is quite a big spread, especially in the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Saints, but I don't think they cover. So I think the Saints win, but just not by 10 points. So however you want to lay your money down, go for it. Our final matchup is the Washington football team playing host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're hosting because they're the divisional champs, but their record, dear Lord, that's not fair. Okay, regardless, the Washington football team barely squeaked by the Eagles last year, and the Eagles essentially gave them help by putting in Sudfeld and pulling Jalen Hurts. That was silly, in my opinion. It didn't seem like they were coaching to win the game, but who knows? They tried to give this game away last week, and they're going to need a much better effort. We've already seen Chase Young come out, calling out Tom Brady, saying, I want Tom. He wants to get a sack, record a sack against Tom Brady, which is awesome, especially for a young rookie, an Ohio State grad, Tom, a Michigan guy. So it makes sense to me. But do I think Washington has enough on offense? That's the key there. And Tom knows how to play this late in the season. Their offense is finally gelling and clicking. They're getting Antonio Brown involved. It looks like Mike Evans will be healthy enough for the game. Sounds like there was no structural damage to his knee injury last week. Gronkowski's really caught on as of late in the season and caught his second wind. I think the Buccaneers are rolling, and I think they beat the Washington football team on the road. I know they're favored by 8, so I'll take Tampa Bay, but they do not cover.